Kingdom Business Summit 2024 was incredible. We had over 650 people together for 2.5 days. We got to learn business, we got to network, but more importantly, people got to encounter God. And so we've put together some summit sessions to give you a bit of a behind the scenes. So here's our first one. I want to talk to you about scaling a business. I'm going to basically take you through a framework that I have been using in my mind to scale businesses for a long, long time. And so this will be brand new, obviously, to the people that have been here first time. This will also be brand new to the people that have been here for 7 years. Because one of the challenges for me, right, is how do I speak to the person in the room that's just started a business and this is their first event? And then how do I speak to the same room with somebody who's like, this is their 11th summit or whatever, right? So I'm going to take everybody with us, right? So obviously the topics are going to be the same: sales, marketing, recruitment, HR, but how we deliver them, how we think about them, how we structure them will always be different and will always be fresh. So this framework that I'm about to take you through is just a framework. It's not necessarily going to change your life until we actually get in and roll our sleeves up and start building some things. But here's what I have found. Business never gets easier. But we get better. Business never gets easier, but we can get better. In fact, it reminds me of Sir Edmund Hillary. Does anybody know who that is? Or the Kiwis in the room? They're like, there's my one dude, my boy. So Edmund Hillary was a Kiwi climber who got to the top of Everest. I'll leave it there. And he made this really interesting statement. They had like a debrief meeting after their Everest summit, and they came back. Actually, they didn't quite get to the top, right? And he come back, and they're having a meeting, and he says, Everest, you can't get any bigger, but we can. Right? It's a little bit like that in business. Business is not going to get any easier, but you can get better. You can learn more, you can do more, you can be more strategic, you can be more intentional, you can try different strategies. And one of the reasons why a lot of people don't go on to build a big enough business is they don't try enough things. One of the biggest issues, especially as you get older and you become more risk averse, you trick yourself into thinking that, stable is important. But actually, if you want to grow a great business, especially in these days with everything changing so much, you have to be okay with testing and trying lots and lots and lots of things, knowing that only a small portion of them have to work. If I look at my business life, more has not worked than worked. It's just that when they work, they're really valuable. Right? So business is not going to get easier, but you can get better. And what I want to go through is basically a bunch of handles and strategies so that you can be better equipped for business. And, and it's funny just to speak into those people who are like, man, all of these problems. No, problems are a sign of life. By the way, you can get rid of all your problems. You just have to go to heaven to realize it. Some of you are like, I would trade right now for that outcome. That's on the assumption that you get in. I mean, listen, there will be people that come and he says, depart from me, I did not know you. So, yeah, that's a thing.
Let me ask you a question. Do you want to grow your business this year?
The business, in terms of finances, 5x in the first year of doing elevation.
But walking in for the first time, it's like, wow, there's a lot of like-minded people here.
Wez has helped me quadruple my income over the last 4 years, and he's been there for me every step of the way.
I want to help you grow your business. I want to see you scaling up your profits and multiplying your impact. For me, seeing Christian business owners succeed in the marketplace is what the world needs right now. Ultimately, that's the reason why I created Business Elevation. Business Elevation is the most hands-on, practical program available today. We're going to be looking at your sales, your marketing, your recruitment, your systems, your financial management. And that's just us getting started.
It's super inspirational. From the start, biblical principles for running your business.
The beautiful thing about it is too that there's that kingdom aspect to it, and everyone gets it here.
It laid the foundations for us to build a great business.
2-day live trainings every quarter, 12 practical hands-on webinars, 12 Q&A webinars, 90-day planning to keep you on track, all in a community of faith-filled believers that want to support you and see you win.
Now let me ask you one more question. What are you waiting for?
All right, so we're going to look at a little bit of business, and I want to show you this framework, and then we're going to break it down into micro chunks, and then we're going to break it down into strategies, and I'm going to pick on a whole bunch of different things, and we're going to get them done and executed in your business before we leave here. All right, so I want to talk to you about scaling a business, right? Scaling a business is, obviously it's pretty cool language or whatever, but it's actually designed for a reason. Because you can grow a business, you can be 3% bigger next year than this year, right? And all you've done is grow organically at the rate of inflation, but that's not really scaling a business. Does that make sense? Scaling a business is loaded. I'm trying to get you to grow beyond organic growth. Organic growth is a really hard way to grow a business, right? It only requires apathy. That's all that organic growth requires. Do nothing and hang on for the ride, and you'll get organic growth. I'm trying to get you to be like, okay, how can we grow much, much faster than organic growth? Now, of course, scaling is interesting, because if your business is doing $50,000 a year, then you can scale 30 times in a year. But if you're doing 30 million today, it could be incredibly dangerous to go to 60 and be 2 times the size, right? Because there's so many moving parts that you've got to build an infrastructure that can handle it. You know, it's like trying to turn a Titanic. Like it takes more to do that than it does to turn a jet ski, right? So scaling's different for everybody is what I'm trying to say. But if you're sitting here and you're like, we're doing 100 grand a year, or we're doing 500 grand a year, or we're doing $1 million, you can be thinking we can be 3 to 10 times the size in a year. That's a reality. I'm not suggesting you have to. I'm suggesting you can. And I'm suggesting that if you want to, that would be a pretty cool way to scale up a business, okay? It's going to require a lot of work, but I don't think you came to this room to shirk work, right? And if you did, you're going to be really let down. All right, let's have a look at this model. All right, so here's the 7 elements of scale. And they start at the top with disciplines. By the way, you won't get this in any other room because it comes with foundations that are kingdom. All right, a lot of places that will teach you business, they'll start by just exploding the business, because as if the business is the only thing that matters. No, disciplines matter, right? And we will be breaking these down, but essentially disciplines are like the foundations that make a good, successful Christian. Because if you build $100 million corporation, but you neglected your kids and they're injecting heroin in their eyeballs, you are not a success in the kingdom of God. You might be a success with your mates down at the press club, right? But you're not a success in the kingdom of God, right? And I would rather you scaled a smaller business and were successful in the kingdom of God than scaled a bigger business and threw your life down the toilet, right? So that's why we have to have some disciplines that actually never go away. All right. So the disciplines, I am actually going to get to them, but they're around your physical health and your mental health and the state of your family and things like that, right? They will basically be the thing that underpins how high you can go in the kingdom building a business. One of the things that we learn in the kingdom as we read our scripture is you have to go down to go up. That's as practical as get on your knees to be lifted up by God, right? But it's also about what are the foundations. Like if you want to build a really high building, the height of the building is determined by the depth of the foundations. It's that simple. If you want to build a 3-story walk-up, you do not need foundations to the same size as a 30-story high-rise. So some of you are trying to build a 30-story high-rise, but your foundations are designed for a 3-story walk-up. So we have to get these disciplines in place, and they need to be consistent for you over time. Disciplines. Now, once we've got them instituted and set inside our business, we then move on to the target. Now, the target is, it would be really good for us to know our outcome. What's the purpose of the business? What's the outcome that we're chasing? A lot of people do not stop and pause and create a finish line before they start. And so what happens is, when you don't actually know what the end game is, and when you don't know what the target is, anything makes sense. And at the same time, nothing makes sense. How do you make a decision on a daily basis, and you need to make hundreds of them? How do you make decisions when you don't actually know what you're lining your decision making up to? You've got to know the target. Now, I also want to give you freedom to say you can change your target. You may set out with one outcome and 5 years in, decide a different outcome. It's fine, but you have to know your outcome. You have to know what you're chasing. And of course, there's only a handful of options on the table when it comes to like the target for your business. It's build to sell, right? It's build and put under management and take a passive role. It's then venture capital money, list on a stock exchange, wind it down, succession with family. There'd be some other minor ones that fall underneath that, but that's really like your choices. And by the way, that's not the only deciding factor. It's how big is it at that point? Are you trying to build a $1 million business and you want to sell it for $200,000? Fine. Like, you know what I want? I want us to live in a capitalistic society where you get to choose what you want, right? Like from my point of view, like I love it when somebody comes to me and says, I want to build a $100 million company, let's freaking go and make it happen. Like that gets me juiced. But I also love it when somebody says, I want to build a business that produces 30 grand a year to supplement my family income so I can build an inheritance for my children's children. That's the beauty of capitalism. You get to choose and nobody gets to control it. Like, by the way, a $30,000 side hustle and $100 million, they're both valuable to society. So that's the beauty of, I want to fight for capitalism because the alternative is horrendous, right? So that's why I don't mind. I'm not trying to just clap up the guys that want to do 100 million. I want to clap up the people who are like, I just want a little bit extra on my business. Great. If that's what serves your vision and your assignment, let's get it done, right? But you still need to know what it is. You can't escape the fact that you need to have a target. You need to know, is it that you want to build it to $5 million of annual revenue with $1 million of profit, then put it under management, lose some of the profit because you've stacked it with the general manager. Maybe you're only picking up $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 of profit, but it's under management and now you can go and do something else. Like, you've got to know the outcome. You've got to know the target. And by the way, those numbers are just numbers. If they're too much for you, don't be put off, because for the person sitting to your left, they could be tiny and irrelevant. I'm just using them as an example, right? But you've got to know the target. You've got to know what you're chasing down. And of course, like I said, you may decide, I'm building this $100 million corporation. I'm going to list it on the stock exchange. I'm going to take 26 years worth of profit on day one, and I'm going to go and live in the Bahamas. That's okay. They need ministry in the Bahamas too. All right? What you don't want to get caught in, by the way, just flipping back to some theology, you do not want to get caught up in the thinking of like, I'll sell my business and go into ministry. By the way, that's an impossible scenario. You cannot sell a business and go into ministry. What you can do is trade one ministry for another ministry, but you cannot sell your business and go into ministry. Oh gosh, okay, we've got some work to do on that one. You do understand that ministry is not set for the four walls of church on a Sunday for 90 minutes. Like, that's all the new people that are clapping because it's the first time they've been validated. All your old ones are like, yes, Wesley, we've been doing this for 7 years, right? No, listen, I want to make sure that we usher this whole group towards something, right? You're a full-time minister the day you became a full-time Christian. That's it, period, finished, done. Now, it's just that our ministry we do for 60 hours a week. I was just trying to be kind, all right? I had a part-time job too once, right? So I guess the reason why I'm talking about this is when it comes to target, so many of you say to me, I'm going to sell the business and I'm actually going to go and do the ministry work. It's like, no. They are together. In your life, they are together. You can't separate them. Like, it's not like Jesus took his robe off and went, I'll make chairs, right? And I'll come back to being the high priest in an hour once I've made this chair. Like, it's one life that is melded into being a full-time minister. You're a full-time minister when you're doing the dishes after dinner with your family. You're a full-time minister when you're hiring somebody. You're a full-time minister at church when you've got your hands raised. You're a full-time minister, right? It's just that our pulpit looks like a boardroom and a water cooler. Deathly quiet. All right, then we move. So once we've got our disciplines built and then we decide what the target is, we've then moved to what I call product market fit. Product market fit is the point where you start to get enough real-time data that the market is telling you that your hypothesis around your products and services works, right? So, because before you ever go and scale a business, you should check that the business vitals and fundamentals work. Does that make sense? For example, let's use a motor car racing analogy, right? Yeah, come on, right? See, I don't like soccer, but I like man sport. It's called football, is it? Like, before you put high octane in the tank and take off, would it be a good idea to check that the wheels are on? Yes or yes? Yes, right? Would it be a good idea, right, to check that the air intake's working? That, you would want to check that the harness has been, see what I mean? Like, you would want to check some of the fundamentals around the car before you go and put high octane in it and nitrous, if it's a proper car, so you can go really, really fast, right? Right, so it's the same thing in business. Wouldn't you want to check that the fundamentals and the finances and the transactions and the customers and the products and the delivery is profitable before you go scale it? Right? So there's a bunch of things that fit underneath product market fit, but it's essentially the feedback loops that the products, the services, the delivery, the USP, the guarantee, the things that you're presenting to the market, you can actually deliver profitably. And if you did enough of them, you would be able to scale success. You are better off to pause at that point and build good infrastructure rather than race off and scale a business that you find out has 4% margins on a good year. Or the overheads are much too high to be able to sustain the growth. Or you can't actually get the people, so now you need to water down the product, which means the market don't pay the price, which means there's nothing left over. So many businesses race off and they haven't actually proven the model, right? If you actually just go slow to go fast and figure some things and squeeze the profitability in the model, then when you grow, you've got a business that's far more sustainable and gives you a bigger trade-off. So once we've got product market fit, that's when we scale up and multiply our marketing. So when we're talking about marketing, we're talking about all of the pillars of marketing. We're talking here about you should be running Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, TikTok ads, SEO, web dev, organic. You should be doing all of those. But that's not just the end of it. You should also be at networking events. You should also be setting up strategic alliances. You should also be doing direct mail. You should also be doing cold calls. You should also be doing bold calls, right? There's 150 marketing pillars that you should implement in your business, but you need to have at least 10 that are working concurrently. 10 marketing pillars producing leads every day, every week, every month. And that's how you can build a business where you're not stressing about where the next customer comes from. So this is a classic area where People are scared to test. And when it comes to marketing, you should just get inside your head that you're going to have to try a bunch of things and they're not all going to work. That's life. That's business. That's why most people never create success in their life, because they're too scared to try. But marketing is an area that you need to make peace with the fact that you're going to burn some cash. You're going to burn some cash on marketing that doesn't work. But each one of those is getting you closer to the pillars that do work. Now, of course, there are some that are absolutely proven, right? Like there are some marketing pillars that you don't have to guess whether Google Ads work. Google Ads work 100% of the time. Does that make sense? Some of you are like, that's not my experience. No, that's okay. That's because you bought a $6 Udemy course thinking you know what you're talking about and built your own ads. No, Google Ads work 100% of the time. Because what's Google's job? Google's job is to put the website that you chose in front of the people that search the keyword that you chose. That's all it does. Now, if you've chosen the wrong keywords, you're in trouble. If you've got a sucky website, you're in trouble. Right? That's on you. That's not on Google Ads. Google Ads can only ever say, okay, you want that URL to go to the people that search that term. Cool. I'll put those together. All right? This is what I mean by business doesn't get easier, but you can get better because you can learn what is a landing page, how does it convert, what should be on there. What are the, like you might start by running a bunch of keywords and then over time look at the data and go, okay, that keyword doesn't work, that one doesn't work, that's better, let's put the budget towards that one and burn some of that cash. But I find a lot of people cannot get their head around losing money on marketing and they can't iterate. They can't be like, I'll spend some money there and I'll learn and it'll get me closer to that and closer to that and closer to that and closer to that. They're too scared, right? They're hanging on with dear life to the little bit of money they've got and they're scared to invest it to grow, right? Well, you won't grow a business if you're scared to invest. And marketing is an area where you will get it wrong, but each wrong gets you closer to a right and it gets easier, okay? So you're going to have to make peace with the fact that this is a great area where you can try lots of things and they won't all work. But there are some that absolutely 100% work. I'll give you another one just for fun. Cold calls. 100% of the time you can scale a business with cold calls. So just to explain this, because I know I've got that look now where everyone's like, you didn't bring up cold calls, did you? By the way, I'm not suggesting you go and race off and do it as your next strategy, but if you do, then you'll scale your business. By the way, if you can just get your head around the fact that you can talk to another human over the phone, like if you can just get your head around that you're using a phone to talk to a human, like it's ridiculous, I know, like it's far-fetched, but if you can just get your head around using a phone to talk to a human, then there is nothing you cannot have in life. Because the problem with most marketing pillars is you are a little bit dependent on the platform or the outcome. With cold calls, it's all dependent on you. All right? So it's not a nice strategy, but it's a great skill. So that's a great pillar for you to learn. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because some of you are like, I don't have any money for marketing. Okay. Do you have a phone? Yep. Off you go. I wish, like, can you imagine if the government, I can't stand government control, but this one would be good because it's my idea. Imagine if the government said, okay, well, I want to register an ABN or a company. Okay, no worries. Well, we require you to make 1,000 cold calls for your business before it's granted. Some of you will be like, I don't want a business. Great, because if you put off by that, you're going to be put off by the real trouble that comes, right? Like making 1,000 calls is like not difficult, right? And if that puts you off, that would be great. I remember I listened to does anybody remember, what was the app where it was voice only? Anyway, there was an app that was went really, really big. What was it? Clubhouse. Clubhouse was an app that was just audio. There was no video, no text. And you just joined rooms and people talked. And there was this recording that came out with Elon Musk was on like hosting in the room, and somebody said to Elon, "What would you say to somebody that needs like encouragement and that to start their business?" He said, "What I would say is, if you need encouragement to start your business, don't start your business. like if you need it from me to kind of inspire you to go do it, then it's not going to work. Like, you're better off to save yourself the drama." And so it's a little bit like that. Like, if you could just get your head around the fact that you could call 1,000 people and not care what the response was, you'd actually make some money. Because remember, everyone's like, I'm B2B or I'm B2C. There's no such thing as B2B and B2C. It's a fugazi. Everything is P2P. It's all people to people. Remember, a business has never purchased anything in its life. A business has never purchased anything. It's the people in the business that purchase, right? So why don't you just go and call enough people that you get some yeses? So that's one marketing pillar. And you're probably thinking, that's not the best one he could have chosen. Well, I'm removing the excuses. I don't have any money for Google. Okay, get on the phone. Or go to networking events. That's a great way to shape you. I don't know about you, but I remember I first started going to networking events, and they were incredible for me. They literally put me on the map going to networking events. They were a little bit daunting though at the start. You walk into a room and there's all these people that are familiar and comfortable, and you're walking in cold and you're like, I've got to kind of, but I guess if it puts you off, then you probably shouldn't run a business. But if you can put up with it and get there and get some confidence, then it really works. All right? It's a great way to get confidence. So there are 150 marketing strategies that you should implement, but you need at least 10. Right, now we've got the marketing absolutely humming. Now we need to automate the business. And automate's interesting because you probably needed to have systems and processes before now. To even get to this point, you would have had to have had some systems and processes. But this is when we put a dead set intentional focus on automating the business, right? And automating is not just creating a systems manual. It is broader than creating a systems manual. So it includes creating a systems manual. So you racing through the business and producing 300, 400, 500 short videos on the way that you operate, and then storing those in a library and making available for the team. That is a systems manual, right? Do not think for a minute that you're going to type out a systems manual in 2024 and get anybody to follow it, all right? Kids these days can't read, right? So that's not true, but it's close to true. It definitely can't spell. Back in my day when you couldn't spell, it was embarrassing. Now it's just celebrated, because it's all on it just fixes itself, all right? So it's broader than your systems manual, because when it comes to automation, you actually need to create almost like a dashboard for yourself to be able to get real-time data to make decisions on, right? So it's not just about having a systems manual so you can go to the beach. Automating is automating your financial control, right? Automating is the daily reporting and the KPIs and the productivity metrics of the team, so that all this information is coming at you and you can make decisions based off it. If you think about the flight deck or the cockpit of a plane, that's where you need to land. That's where you need to create that outcome, right? So that you are literally having data pushed to you whilst you fly the business, and you're like, less of that, more of that, turn that on, turn that off. But you can only get to the point where you're scaling a business that way when you automate the reporting and the numbers so that it's provided to you in real time so that you can make decisions. And just to break that down, that means like understanding a profit and loss statement, right? And understanding off P&L reporting and benchmarking. So for example, if last month's cost of goods was 23% of revenue and this month is 32% of revenue, and you don't have that information, you don't realize that you're about to go and lose a whole bunch of money, or you've got a problem, but you don't know because it wasn't reported. So I'm talking about getting data reported to you so that you can actually do something about it. Does that make sense? That all comes under automate. Now that we have automated it, now we can afford to add a bunch more people on the team. Now, I mean, you've obviously had team up to this point, but now it's like the focus. It's the focus, right? We are now going to onboard a team, and we're going to start to dominate and scale up the revenue, scale up the bodies, scale up the human capital to start to really move the needle. Now, that's not easy. How many of you have been running CCADs for the last few months? Well, to be fair, it is a lot easier than it was 12 months ago. A lot easier than it was 12 months ago. But there are still some really interesting dynamics out in the marketplace. So if your model of hiring is run the same CCAD we used 3 years ago, it's not going to work. You will not get the outcome that you want, right? So of course, if we're going to scale the team, this is about finding them, right? Which is a really well-written, crafted CCAD and Indeed and Facebook and recruitment companies and whatever else you need. Like, you should be everywhere. If you're going to scale your team, you need to be everywhere when it comes to recruiting. But this is also about, like, how do you onboard them so that they win? How do you give them a position description that really matters? How do you induct them into the business so that they're profitable as fast as they can be? How do you let them know that they're contributing to a bigger picture? Right? How do you make them feel like they're contributing and they're valuable as an employee? How do you do feedback loops with your team? Right? Underneath scaling team is a bunch of strategies that have to be implemented. Otherwise, you'll get team that come in and bounce. Now, by the way, which are the team that bounce? The good ones. The sucky ones will stay because they finally got somebody to believe in them. The good ones are out of there, right? Because you didn't have a system, you didn't make them feel valuable, like all of those things that we just said. If they're a thoroughbred and they join and you don't have that stuff, they'll use you for a little while for pay and intellectual property, and then they'll take that and go and take it somewhere else. All right? So we're talking here about having an entire system for scaling up a team. Not only finding them, but retaining them. Okay? And that requires a whole bunch of documentation. I mean, just for example, because I want to give you as much information as I can. If you're going to start a new employee, best practice, and it doesn't always work, because sometimes you're scrambling and it's quick, but best practice is you start that person with 3 sheets of paper, or if you want to use a computer and save the whales, whatever, do that way. But sheet 1 is what you need to know by the end of day 1. Sheet 2 is what you need to have learned by the end of week 1, and sheet 3 is by the end of month 1. It's already predestined before that person walks in for the first 5 minutes of their shift, that this is what you're going to learn by the end of day 1, week 1, month 1, and then you just work them through those 3 sheets. That's how they can see that you're a good company and you're going somewhere, and that's how they can see that they're contributing and getting good feedback from their work, and that's how you can make sure that you're shortening the time frame between outlaying for the team and getting a return. Shorten that and be very intentional about it. Now, so here we go, right? We've got all our disciplines in place, and we're good. We've got a target. We've got product market fit. We've multiplied our marketing. We've automated the business with all of our reporting. We've scaled our team, and now our role becomes increasing our footprint. So what does that mean? That means, like, if you've got 1 shop, let's go to 2 and 3. If you've got an office that's just in Brisbane, let's get an office going in Sydney or the Gold Coast, right? And multiply. If I'm purely online, it's like, okay, let's get offline and do some retail stores. If I'm retail stores, okay, let's get online and have an online store, right? It's about multiplying that footprint so that you can cast a bigger net around more people to collect more revenue. By the way, none of those have to be, your examples. If you're a service-based business that's web-based, you may not have to roll out other offices, but you can still increase your footprint. If you currently only service Australia through your business, we'll go to New Zealand. All right, we'll take their money. We'll even take Tassie's money. You could go, Asia is very, very, very close, right? You can roll out in the US, pretty easy these days, right? The UK is friendly to do business with. So if you run a business that is not geographical required, or the office doesn't have to be in those towns, then your footprint would go beyond Australia, would be a great place to start. But if you've got a business that's geographically locked in because you make things and deliver them, then you would open up a second branch somewhere. And by the way, increasing footprint doesn't necessarily have to just be selling more of what you currently do. Increasing footprint could be, right, we've got this geographical area that we make for, but let's multiply out the products and services we offer to the same group of customers and increase our footprint of products and services. Does that make sense? Now you get to the end of that thing and you go, wow, that's a lot of work. Yeah. But the cycle starts again. Because let's say, for example, using random numbers, let's say that this process was to take a business from startup to $1 million. Let's just say $1 million in revenue. Let's say. Do you think you need different disciplines to go from 1 to 5 million? Yes or yes? Because remember I said to you, you can only go high as you do go down. So you're going to have to fight for some new disciplines now to go back around the clock. You're going to have to adopt different disciplines, because let me put it to you this way, sticking on the disciplines thing. When you first started the business, you had heaps of spare time, right? You knew every cat video on the internet, right, when you first started. But by the time you've gone around once and you've built this, you haven't got any time. Now, it's not the cat videos that usually goes first. It's your time with the Lord. It's your presence at home. You become Snappy Tom, cranky, right? Some of you are like, how do you know? Because I was there too once, right? So now we need a new set of disciplines, because the last thing you want to do is keep growing without readjusting your disciplines. Right? So now, if we decide, okay, now we're going to push through and we're going to go for 5 million, great. The target may have changed, right? The target may have changed between, starting and going to 1 million and then getting to 1 million and deciding to go to 5. You might be like, hang on a minute, I've got a much bigger taste for business than I started out with. I love this thing. Why would I settle for a $2 million sellout when I could go to 30 million, right? For whatever. Just, it's a great opportunity to reset the target, because after you've been around the cycle once and you've learned a bunch of stuff, you might be like, no, let's go bigger, or let's go smaller, or or we do one more round of the cycle, we go to 10 million, I'll sell that and I'll start another company, right? Whatever, but you get the opportunity to reset your target. You may not reset your target, but you have an opportunity to reset your target, and you'll be resetting your target with a whole bunch more knowledge because you've always been around. And then, of course, if you want to go from 1 million to 10 million, you're going to have to innovate your products. New products, new services, times changed, technology's moved in. You need to now go back and check product market fit that the new product you're about to go from 1 to 10 million with, the market really, really like. Does that make sense? And so you keep going, right? Then you're going to have to multiply your marketing, because the marketing that gets you to 1 million is not going to get you to 10. And then you have to have a whole new different systems to be able to deliver the other products and services you've innovated. And then you're going to have to scale a team to be able to get there. You understand the point, right? Footprint. Then you go, okay, we went from 1 million to 10. Now we're going to go from 10 million to 35 or 50, whatever. You choose your numbers. I don't care, right? Don't be put off by those numbers. If your numbers are smaller, it's great. Every large business started small. And then you go again. I find that there are certain breakpoints on the journey that trip up pretty much everybody. There are certain growth, and they are a little bit different, because, for example, if you're in construction, it's pretty easy to get to $1 million of revenue, because it could be 1 or 2 projects, right? It could be a lot less, but more. But I'm just saying, it's a lot easier to hit $1 million in revenue in construction than it is selling iPhone cases, right? So, having said that, iPhone cases have margin and construction companies don't. So, I'm kidding. But the margins are definitely lower, right? That's my point, right? If I had to choose between a construction company at 8% net profit and an iPhone selling at 35% net profit, I'd pick construction, because it's like you have to win 2 jobs instead of 100 million or whatever, right? I think people get tripped up at about the $1 million mark. A lot of people kind of get to that nearing 1 million and it really hurts to bump through there. I think people get tripped up again at about 3 million because the business is, you cannot just do more of what you did of 1 to get to 3. You can't because at a million, remember, and these are generic figures, but at a million, it's like you are pretty much maxed out trying to hold it all together. And you might be able to hold together 1, but you can't hold together 3. So you have to change the management structure, right? And then the same thing happens again at about 10, and then it goes 25 million, and it goes 75 million. And then after about 150, it becomes a lot easier because you can afford to just pay different teams to run different departments and they all chase outcomes together. But up to that point, you're basically allocating capital to the area that you need to do it. And I say that to say that's the way it's meant to be. So if you're sitting at 900,000 and you're like really struggling to push through, it's because we actually have to break the model. And even if you get to like a 1.1 year, if you haven't broken the model, you'll come back to 900 because it's too dependent on you. That's why we have to go round the clock again and completely change the way it's done for you to break through. So if you're just barely holding your business together now because it's so dependent on you, and then in your prayer time you're asking God to double it, it's not going to happen. It's not because God's denying you, it's because your model is going to kill you. Does that make sense? That's why business doesn't get easier, but you can get better because you can understand different models and then go and try enough things to make them work. All right, but it's not easy. It's not easy. All right, so from my point of view, I look at that process, and underneath each of those 7 elements, there are between 20 and 35 different strategies that need to be implemented. The mistake a lot of people make is they don't build things in order. So for example, they might have some disciplines and they might have a vague idea of their target, and then they don't do product market fit, and then they go and explode and increase their marketing. Now you've got spaghetti on your hands because now you're getting all this feedback from customers about it's not right and they don't like it, and you're just trying to race forward and grow a business, but you don't actually, you're basically multiplying a headache. And then I get people who are like, and then they race forward and they're like, right, we're going to load up on 15 team members because I think that's going to get me there. It's like, so you're going to employ 15 team members to sell products and services that you haven't proven you can scale profitably yet. Great. Well, you'll put on the 15, you'll run out of money in 6 months, you'll lay them all off, and you'll come back and you'll get to the point where you should have done it in the first place, which is do it in order. Like literally my day job is bringing people back to the stage that they tried to skip. Oh man, it's really tough at the moment. Okay, why is it tough? Oh man, we're just like not making any money. Okay. Tell me about the products and services. How much margin is it? Oh, I don't know, Wez. Oh. But you knew enough to go and put on the staff. Yeah, well, I read about it in a business book. I listened to a podcast. Like, no, you did it wrong. It's go slow to go fast. I'm not telling you these things because I want you to grow a business slowly. That's like the opposite of who I am. The fastest way to build it is to build it right. No, I'm not saying that you never make a mistake. I'm saying you have foundationally built the right steps so that you can grow it rather than just multiply a massive bowl of spaghetti. All right? Like literally people will skip the automate stage. The one that most people skip is automate because it's like boring and ugly. Like who needs systems when we can get revenue, right? The problem with that thinking is you will only have revenue for a small amount of time because your systems can't deliver. So, people are like, we're going to roll out nationwide. Okay. We're going to start offices in multiple cities. Great. We've got the team to do it. Okay, but what's the systems that the team know to operate? Because it's the systems that the team operate that make sure the customer has a good experience. And if the customer has a good experience, they'll pay you. And then you complete the circle. But we don't have any. I just hope that they pick it up on their induction. Okay. Well, I'll speak to you in 6 months when we have to come back and fire everybody and close those offices down and do it properly. That's just the reality. All right? So I would rather you spent the time and did it properly and implemented the pillars and the strategies underneath each of these. By the way, I'm not trying to slow you down. You might be like, I just want to get, you could probably find like, okay, let's say you're up to like product market fit. You could possibly get product market fit done in 30 to 60 days if you were really intentional about it, depending on how complex your products are and things like that. Like, this doesn't have to be like a long, drawn-out process that takes you like your whole adult life to go around the clock. It's just intentional. It's like, that's the thing I need right now. Right, what are the strategies that fall underneath it? Let's do that. Great. I've got enough information. Let's go. Does that make sense? All right, this is not about like, oh my gosh, this is about building it right so it's sustainable. Because I have spent a lot of my life as a business coach realizing that people have chased 20 years, not built it the right way, and there's no money at the end. Some of you are like, 20? I've been good at that for 30. So we're gonna break this down and build it out little bit by little bit.